Hard in, hard in, hard out, hard in. I get this confused every week. You'd think I'd have it all figured out by now. But anyways, welcome to Gotham City Tonight. I am your host, Ryan Doell. And I'm going to talk about The Flash. I'll introduce my guest, John Yurcaba, part 4. When he shows up, everyone's running a little late today. I kind of blame AEW myself for being late. You put Eddie Kingston at the end. I have to watch. Eddie Kingston might be is probably like in my top 5 favorite wrestlers, like ever. He's awesome. All right. Let me just quickly say hi to the chat. And then while you're here in the chat, I am going to try the whole link thing because this beauty right here, I did an unboxing for on the weekend. You can still check it out. Bat Doell was on the loose, and I unboxed this. This is going to be up for grabs as a prize tonight. Usually, I was going to technically wait to start doing prizes when I hit 1,000 subs. But you know what? A lot of you have been watching the show for a long time, and I feel that you all need a chance to win something. And so I just want to, that's my way to show appreciation and thank you. Let's say hi to the chat. Stanley is going to be watching later in the week. Derek Hoover also avoiding doing some spoiler dodging, but wanted to say hi. Shiny Plastic People. He's going out for dinner with the wife after AEW. Very smart. That's very nice of her to want to actually wait till after AEW. I just want to point that out. And he's saying The Flash wasn't great, but it wasn't bad, and I was entertained. Yeah, really, that's all any of us can ask for. Justin is here. Toy Geekosaurus, Gotham Stalker. Skylar Davis is here. The 80s experience. Yes, let's talk about that Batman Supergirl movie. So good. Geek the F out. They did their review earlier this week as well of The Flash. Be sure to check that out, please. Troy Dita. Great movie. Yeah, let's definitely get into it. There's some good, some bad, and some but yeah, we'll get into it. Definitely not the worst movie I've ever seen. Randall is here. I love that. I'm thinking that's going to be hell. I love the hell out of this film. Loved Keaton, Affleck, Supergirl, and yes, both Barrys. It was just a fun time. I agree. I absolutely agree. Stephen Lawrence, The Flash was a perfect no. Was it overhyped? Yes. Do you think it was overhyped? I actually didn't think it got a lot of media outside of the trailer, but we'll get into that as well. Plus, you've also watched it twice. That's awesome. That is totally awesome. Hang on. Ed, I do want to bring this one up here just quickly. Justin, who we already said hi to, I'm just waiting for the beardy old man Bruce Wayne hot toy. Yes. Same here. He kind of reminded me of Data from Independence Day. Jack Knight 73. Super stoked you had fun watching that movie. J-Rod, yes, let's get nuts. Yes, please smack that like button. Right? Nolan is here. Thank you for being here, hanging out. Toy Arc is here. Ahoy, ahoy. Brian Brink, on to the encore. I'm assuming that means Geek Dad J is done over at Screen Geeks, right? Geek Dad Live 2 to Gotham City Tonight. So thank you. Thank you, Jay, for bringing everybody on board and hanging out. Batboy Versus is here. Cougar McGillicuddy. That's one of my favorite names to say. Justin Nicolosi is here. Thank you, 80s Experience. I had a lot of fun. Hey, man, you can get yourself put into the draw. I'll drop the link here shortly. Hopefully it works. This is my first time trying to do this, and everyone was too busy to help me test it. So we'll see what happens. Dartharian, I don't need that belt in the small. That's okay because it's adjustable. Casino Skunk Productions is here. Hank Bush 4. I like that. Geek Dad Life is here with the haze. And he loved it. Interesting. All right. I can't wait to go back and watch his. I didn't want to watch his review and be influenced by his review. He's an influencing guy. I don't know if anyone knows this about Jay. He knows he can influence people. And that's why he shills for Mattel and he shills with me, with Mondo. Just a couple of shills hanging out, doing our thing. Nelson A is here. Doell, what multiverse timeline are you from? Dude, don't. I wish I knew, but I could probably tell you my canon event, if anything. Unlimited Power is here and fashionably late. Speaking of fashionably late, I have waiting in the wings of this wonderful show a published artist for Ghostbusters. Like, he does Art of Ghostbusters books. He's had shirts made of his work for Ghostbusters Day. IDW cover artist for Godzilla, Ninja Turtles, the big leagues of IPs. Folks, please give a nice warm welcome to John Yurcaba IV.
What's up, everybody? How's it going?
Dude, are you ready to get into The Flash?
I'm so ready, dude. I'm ready to enter the Speed Force.
To enter the Speed Force? You know what was really funny is because we saw the different Batmans, and we know that The Flash can do stuff like, the typical get on a treadmill, and then before you know it, he's traveling through the multiverse. And so I honestly thought we were going to be doing a multiverse movie and not a time travel movie. And then yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I could definitely see that. I think I did not by any means predict the movie. Like there were definitely many, many times where I was sitting there watching and I was just like, oh, didn't see that coming. But I think because early on, I think at one point they were just like, oh, the movie is going to be called Flashpoint, or they made it clear it was going to be based on Flashpoint. And I think because I had been aching for that sort of like, can we just kind of reset everything and start again? I don't know how to recover from this, because it felt like between Birds of Prey and Shazam, and then definitely Black Adam, it felt like there were at least a couple times where it was like, let's try to soft reboot this or do a hard course correct, but not get rid of everything. And so then when they said, hey, the Flash is going to be Flashpoint, I immediately was just like, oh my God, please use this the way I think you're going to use it. And I think for the most part, they did. Like broad strokes where it's like, we're gonna break the universe even more, and then we're going to reset it in a way that allows us to just start over. They did that. And so yeah, I was prepared for that. I didn't know exactly how it would play out, but I think in that way, I felt good about what happened.
Yeah, I like the alternate timeline. I just like even like how we'll get more into it. But I do just want to say I do love how like Bruce Wayne like said like, yo, this is like you get spaghetti, and the spaghetti time travel analogy was just like okay, that's really clever. That's really good. Yeah. I really dug how they did that. But yeah, let's get into it. I believe the movie just kind of starts with him with the Flash, with Barry Allen getting coffee. Oh, by the way, we also do want to I just quickly want to do a shout out and just acknowledge this before we start. We do know that Ezra Miller is not a good dude.
Yes.
Or dude them. He's not. They're not.
They're not
good.
They're troubled. Yeah.
They're troubled. So let's just get that out of the way.
Yeah.
And then,
this is sort of an objective review of the movie itself.
Correct. Thank you, John. And so the movie kicks off with, Barry getting coffee, and Barry he's in a rush because that's what you would be if you had the Speed Force. It kind of reminded me a little bit how like Quicksilver in the Avengers, when Quicksilver was in there, they're always like, why are you such an ass? And why are you always in such a bad mood?
Right.
And he kind of explained it like, imagine waiting in line for the bank all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because everyone's moving so slow around you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what this reminded me of a little bit, where he's just like, yeah, I just need to go. And the dude was just like, the dude at the counter was just taking his time.
Yeah. Like, and they really let you feel it too. Cause I think to anybody, regardless of if you have, you're a speedster or not, that guy is just like, but can you just make my sandwich? And then like Barry talks about how he's running late. And then you add in that other layer of like, and like everything almost feels like it's moving slower for me on top of that. And then the other thing that I like too, and they don't necessarily like directly call it out, and I don't know that anybody's asked the question or gotten it confirmed in terms of like interviews off to the side or anything, but I felt like they very much, what's the word I'm looking for? Like Barry is coded, we'll put it that way, as having ADHD and maybe being on the spectrum and dealing with the anxiety that comes with that and the social awkwardness. And I felt like that was coming into play too, because it's like you can tell he's stressed because it's like, I'm going to be late for work. Normally this is ready for me, blah, blah, blah. And then you kind of see some of the different ways that that stress is exhibiting itself in this instance and throughout the movie. And so it kind of added another layer to the character.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit more neurotic for sure. And I love how, oh, wait, I should point this out here before we get too deep. Yes, I just realized that I'm trying to drop a link in for everyone to put their name down. I didn't have it. Like I said, I didn't have a chance to test this link to see if it was going to work. So I will get Craig to help me out for next week, and we will put this up for grabs next week.
Oh, also, you said I could have that.
You can put yourself in the draw, maybe. We'll see. Yeah, 4 times though. John Yurcaba 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Right. I'll enter for my dad, my grandfather.
Yeah, that's right. it'll
big
be
big bat fans. Big bat fans.
Yeah. But no, I just like how he's for coffee, and then he hears from Alfred, and that's what Barry's like. Have you tried Clark? And they like how they show what everyone's up to. Like it shows you like it felt like an episode of Justice League Unlimited.
Yes, it did. I think I told that. Yeah. I think I told that to, I might have mentioned it to Craig or somebody else, but after I saw it, I was like, hey, the first 20 minutes of this movie are the best Justice League movie we've ever gotten.
Yeah, so far.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. And it was
because the banter is on point. You see how busy everyone is and how the Justice League kind of fits into the world in the sense of like, well, this character's over here, this character's over here. So we're communicating. And now it's like, okay, well, let's reach out to the Flash and coordinate with Batman and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Diana's busy. So let's get, Flash's
the janitor of the Justice League.
Yeah. Poor Cyborg got completely left out.
Yeah.
Right? Like which made me kind of bummed out, but I was like, oh, so we're really not going to go near him, eh? Like,
yeah,
what a bummer. And then, but again, outside of that, seeing Alfred be that guy in the chair, and I don't know, something about seeing, I know we don't really see Cavill's face, but seeing Superman fight a volcano was like such a treat. Like
100%.
Again, there's just these little things that they're all doing in this movie that are just like, where was this 10 years ago?
it's the casual world building that makes it less like, oh, it's so important that we get to all of these big moments. And like, no, this is a world where there's Justice League. We got Superman, Batman. He's over here though, so we're just going to hang out with them. But it reminds you, it's kind of like when you have those little moments in a Marvel film where like, Captain America's doing the detention video in Spider-Man or something,
yes,
and it's just like, this is a world where they all exist. Even if it's not important that Cap is here, it's just like, oh yeah, he's a guy that's around.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes and the roles that they're all doing too, including that Captain America video, it all makes sense and feels true to the characters.
Yeah.
And I think
100%.
That's what made that opening like so good. Like even like I was like, this is the best Affleck as Batman we've ever gotten.
Yes.
And and then seeing this movie, it had me go, well, no, now I want more of these people. Like, what are you doing? Like
the way I keep relating it to people who are like, was it really that good? And I'm like, let me put it this way. Have you ever seen a sports movie where it's like, you've got a team of kids who like, they're rough around the edges. They refuse to work together and they bring in a new coach. And he's like, I'm going to turn you into a real team. And you get to the end of the movie and it's like the playoff game or whatever, and they're losing badly. But then they manage to have like one perfect play. They score 1 point and they're all like losing their minds and crying and celebrating. And the other team's like, but you lost. But it's like, you understand the climax of the movie was just, they did it. They worked as a team. They got 1 point. The Flash was the DCEU scoring 1 point and it felt so good.
Dude, the first 15 minutes of this movie was the last 2 episodes of Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
Like, like that's what it was. And it was so, because you felt good. Like, you felt genuinely good. Like, even, I know some of the VFX is super sketch in this entire film. And for whatever reason, for whatever it is, whether they ran out of budget, I know that they kind of, I know the directors kind of said, oh, this was a stylistic choice. But stylistic choices happen when you're kind of under the gun.
Yeah.
And you're
it's like, how can we creatively explain this away?
And on top of that, at least all the VFX throughout the film, as like, I'm sure people are all talking about it, but it's just like, you know, the VFX to me throughout the entire film, it stayed consistent, whether you liked it or not.
Yes.
It all looked consistent. One part wasn't really, really good, and one part wasn't really, really bad. It just kind of stayed existing, like kind of throughout 100%. The whole thing. And again, like when Flash goes into the bathroom to go change and zips back out, like very classic superhero antic stuff.
Yeah.
Like right off the bat, I was just like, okay, this is great. Gets to Gotham, and then they're showing his run to Gotham.
That was so good.
He's just running. But it's
and it's like, this is epic. Like the way everything just kind of like stretched out and then like right through it. Oh man.
But even his buildup of him doing that big dramatic pose.
The thing that I laughed at was like how he does it, and then the title starts to fade in, and then the girl's like, "Oh my god, Flash!" and it stops, and then he's like, "Can I have the candy bar?" And then it's like, "Okay, anyway, the Flash." I was like, "All right, they're having fun with this. I'm in."
Yeah, I think that's what it. I think that's right too. Like that right off the bat too. That kind of showed the vibe of where this movie was going to be heading.
Yeah,
where like this is not going to be sad and dreary. And
but even then, it's like it had so many tones though. Like there were moments that I was laughing out loud. There were moments that I literally had tears rolling down my face because it was emotional. There was stuff where I was cheering because I was like, "Did you see that?" Like they managed the tone so well, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I absolutely agree.
And I think managing the tone and the characterization and the narrative went a massive way in me not being distracted by the CG, because it's like the story they're telling is so good and everybody is telling it so well that it's like, I appreciate you locking that in. I'm okay if the babies look a little fake. It's not going to bug me because my disbelief is suspended enough that I'm like, this is such a good story. Go on with your bad self. Like,
and let's get right into that whole thing. So what is it? There's a bomb that's set off under a hospital. So now the front end of the hospital is coming down to this sinkhole, and now all these babies are flying out of the window, which is just an insane premise altogether. So this nurse, these babies, and a dog are all flying out of this window, and they have Barry race up, and I love how you see him kind of like stop, get food first.
Yeah.
Like he has this much time to get food first from the vending machine and then plan out how he's going to save everyone in the time. And it's what I loved about that too. And let's get right into those CG babies. I know everyone's kind of comparing it to, what was it?
Silent Hill, Polar
Silent
Express.
Hill from Toy Art. And I think Kayla compared it to Polar Express. And I agree, right? Just talking, babies creep me out. But what I loved about those babies, them being a little more CG, was that they got to do weird things with the babies and with their facial expressions to make it like a live action cartoon. So you've got that, uncanny valley thing happening, but at the same time, the babies are all doing their own like weird expressions and WTFs and like
and the dog.
And the dog, like, I can't wait to talk about the end credits with that dog.
Right.
And like, but it's that
was
whole
so
like,
much fun.
Yes, right here. I was just about to say this, and just to beat me to it, it made
Oh
it okay
man.
to put them in microwaves, and I agree. Right? Like to me, that was like so funny. Of just
But I
didn't
also
he just?
love that like he puts the baby in the microwave, but then he like later on he explains like, oh, okay, like I can't just pick someone up and run at terminal velocity because they're not wearing a suit like me. I can take
Mm-hmm.
that. Like I think it's when he's
Yes.
explaining to the other Barry that his clothes are going to burn off or whatever. He's like, if I put a baby in a microwave, it's going to like the microwave will be what needs to withstand the speed, not the baby. And so I was
Right.
like, oh, so like as funny as it is, you're just like, it's also showing how smart he is, you know?
Exactly. Agreed. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Geek Dad J makes a very good point here. I think it
That's
works
true.
because if they looked like real babies, you'd be too scared for their well-being. That's a really good point, and that's something I didn't even think of. But you're not wrong. And even like when I love this how he brings this up too. So it's the catches all the babies, catches this nurse who's just shook as one would be when you're falling out of the window one moment, but now you're on the ground safe without knowing what really happened.
Yeah.
And he's talking about like, I would go get help. Like technically we all should be, and the Justice League were not very good at that, but you should. And
Yeah.
like he just called it out like as is. And I was like, this okay, again, I was just like this is perfect. Like that's the
Yeah.
kind of like mental health humor I look for
Yeah.
in my superhero films. Because like they don't really ever acknowledge that kind of stuff ever in like Avengers, in Spider-Man, in
Yeah.
any of that. And they always kind of just I understand that like Marvel likes to kind of keep their things kind of light. And this movie's light too, but they acknowledge it in such a way. Like, and again, they
Yeah.
did it
It
again
felt
with
appropriate.
yeah, they did it again with Affleck, right? And
Yeah.
when he has the lasso after, which is so good. And but yeah, everything to do with like when Batman he drops down on that bike that looks straight out of John. What's that artist? He does
Which one?
White Knight.
Oh,
Sean
oh
Gordon
gosh.
Murphy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That bike looks like it was drawn by him
Yeah.
and then placed in a movie. But I love Affleck's suit, his daytime camo, as I call it.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that. Like, even though the toy is just different shades of black, like he's clearly wearing a blue and gray suit, and it looks so good. I think so many people always assume like if you put him in the blue and gray suit, it's going to look like the 60s. It's going to look like someone colored him with Crayolas, and it's like no, this literally like tonally it felt like Batman Hush. Like the suit design is obviously different, but like color wise, like it fit right in. It was fine. It's
the
Batman.
short ears too, right?
Yeah.
That also gives it that kind of like Jim Lee Hush look to it.
Yeah.
More than Frank Miller for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agreed. I just thought like everything on that bike, and it's funny. I think there was like leaked. It made me like I thought about it after the fact. There was those leaked images that came out where people were kind of like, "Oh, what's that?" Like no one even noticed Batman's suit was blue. First off,
yeah,
when those leaked images came out, everyone was like, "Oh, check out Batman's bike! Oh, Batman's bike can't even turn corners." And I was like, "It's comic book logic."
Like, yeah, like the Batman wheels move independently. Yeah,
right.
That was really cool.
I love that. It gave me Batman animated series vibe about how that thing moved. Just because like that car, the Batman animated series car, which I love, it's like my favorite Batmobile. It is long. That thing cannot turn corners. Like it is impossible. But
it's just as bad as Batman 89 in terms of like how it would actually move. Yeah.
Absolutely, right? So but that's what I love about Batman vehicles. Yeah. Like they look awesome. They make zero sense.
None of them move perfectly.
But the other thing I love too is that this is like one of his first vehicles in a long since like the Schumacher era. It feels like that didn't have guns.
Yeah, well, he did have guns when he was chasing the Humvee. I think he shot.
What he used it for was, but it was how he used it.
Yes, 100%. Like at no point did I ever feel like, oh, he's just shooting and he doesn't care. I was like, that was specific. He's taking out their mobility. He's not trying to hurt anybody.
Right. Yeah.
And
agreed.
I loved that. I loved
the shields that came up too.
Yeah, and to me, the whole thing felt like, we've had so many versions of Batman that feel very much rooted in like, Batman Year One, Long Halloween, that sort of. He's still brooding. He still has questions. He's still unsure. He's starting to gain the skill, but he's very dark, and he hasn't found a balance yet. This Batman, outside of like the only other thing that they could have done to hammer it home was like show us like Robin and Nightwing, but this felt like a modern Batman. This felt like a Batman who's found the balance in his life, who's got the gadgets, he's got the skill. He felt like peak Batman that you could go pick up any comic on the shelves right now and be like, oh yeah, that's pretty similar. And it felt good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that whole thing with like after he saves all those people in the building, then they're on the bridge and they're trying to they're legit doing that chase scene.
Yeah.
Right. And like I said, I love when the shields come up on the bike, and then when he ditches the bike and just dives into dives into that vehicle that he's chasing down to get like this virus.
Yeah.
I love how the driver looked at Batman and just dove out of the vehicle.
He was like, I'm not playing this game.
Yeah, I am out of here. I have no time for this. This dude is too. I would rather get rolled out of my own car at fast high speed and ran over by the car behind me than face Batman. Which to me, I was like, again, this is so cool.
Yeah, and
the just everything, just Batman getting the guy, saving the day.
Yeah,
grab hook doesn't work. Right, it starts to fall, and the lasso comes, and because they were saying like, "Oh, Wonder Woman's busy," I was like, "Oh, no gal." So then when Gal Gadot shows up as Wonder Woman, it was like
totally caught me off guard.
The whole theater that I was at went, "Oh," because we were not expecting it, and of course, when she shows up on screen, like everyone just kind of like gets taken aback. It feels like because she's just like. We've gotten so accustomed to her as Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
That now it's just
like I think in all of her appearances, even given the critiques that people have for Wonder Woman 84, which are totally understandable.
Yep, they're all valid.
Her portrayal of the character has always felt consistent. And I think everybody else's, there's been something about it, whether it's their fault or not, it's the script's fault. There's been something where it's like, he's a little brutal. He's a little sad. They're a little this, they're a little that. But she has always been like, and there's Wonder Woman. And so when she shows up, it's like, as long as the story is good, it's probably going to be solid. And so she showed up and it was good.
And it was good. And that's the other thing about Wonder Woman as well that I've noticed is that like even with Wonder Woman 84, nobody complains about Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's always everything around her that everyone's like, what is happening? Like, no. But no one ever, I think that's why we're all kind of like bummed that we're losing her as the character.
Yeah.
Because I think that's just, give her an Elseworlds movie. Give her something. But man.
Like let her and Patty Jenkins, if she wants, like go do Wonder Woman Dead Earth, just like a standalone version of that on film. That would be cool.
Yeah. Or just do some more of just adapt George Perez's and Marv Wolfman's work. Just
that would be cool.
Right? That'd be super fun. But yeah, we get that. And we get that, again, those great, wonderful moments. Like, again, I like how they play that. They didn't ignore any of the stuff that came before this movie either.
Yeah.
Because they did do that thing where it's like, you touch the lasso, you just start talking.
Yeah.
Right?
That was great. And I love that.
Talking about how...
Yeah, like you listen closely, and even when they're trying to figure out like what's happening and they're talking over each other, but you hear all the little things that each one of them is saying, and it's so good.
It's so, and like how Barry's just like, I'm a virgin.
Yeah. And Bruce is just like, he's just like, I would say thank you, but my ego's too big for that. Wait, what? Oh, and then he's just like, honestly, if I wanted to stop crime, I'd just give away all my money, solve poverty or something. And he's like trying to frantically get it off.
I just wear this as a coping mechanism.
Yeah, right.
Like so good, and it just like you were saying, like this is like that was like the best Justice League movie we've gotten thus far. That's
Yeah.
not
Like it
animated.
literally felt like something that could have just been a segment from an episode of Justice League Unlimited. Like it just felt right.
Right. Right. I love that. And then we kind of get right into the meat of the story. We kind of go from this
Yeah.
like fun opening. This is where I kind of got confused because all of a sudden it was like he kind of just started running and then he was like breaking the speed force. And I was just like, wait, why is he running? Is he upset?
Well,
Is he mad at something?
I think because he goes back to work first, right? Because he got
Oh, that's
interrupted
right.
from
And
getting his food, and he
and
goes
his
to
two
work, and
dickhead
then
friends. Yeah.
his friends, his boss, and then he's talking about like, oh, I want to work on like we should slow down, examine these cases more thoroughly, and then his boss is like, are you kidding me? And then he runs into Iris as he's leaving the lab, and she's like, hey, you know, how are things going with your dad and all that kind of stuff. And then I think that leads right into like, or no, because
dad, right?
He talks to his dad. He goes home and he talks to his dad on the phone.
Right.
But for going back just a second, like for as little as Iris is in this movie, I enjoyed her. I thought she played a cool part in like being that like his friends suck. His dad's in jail. He's there with the Justice League, and that's great. And we see him have some really cool moments with Bruce throughout the movie. But like his like Iris kind of sees him, and you can tell she's trying to walk that line of like, yes, I know I'm a reporter, but also I just want to be your friend because we went to school together and I do care about you. But also I got to do my job. And Barry's just like, I'm gonna go. And so seeing her constantly try to kind of reach out to him and not know exactly how to handle it. But then as it goes along, she kind of recognizes like, I just want to make sure you're okay. Like that was really sweet. Right. And for as little as she was in the, like, I wish it made sense to have her in more of the movie, you know? And I thought the actress that played her did a great job.
Yep. And again, they do that really fun bit too, where it's like, you know, the Flash just does this Flash stuff where he cleans his entire apartment before bringing her inside, but it all like falls apart on him. But I love how they show the vibrating through the wall.
Yeah, when he gets the beer.
Get the beers.
2 beers
right?
from my fridge where I keep them.
Yeah. Right? Like, man, I can't believe I almost forgot all that stuff. But yeah, it was like, again, like they had some really good, just, you know, Barry being Barry and some real like real life moments kind of thing. But if you had these powers, like I really enjoyed that. And I agree with you too. I think Iris, for the little amount that we see her in this and even in the Snyder cut, it's you know, I don't know, there's something about her that just she stands out.
Yeah.
You do kind of feel like I want to know more about her. Like, Flash is cool, but what's her deal? And
and especially because, like, you know, Lois has Clark, Hal has Carol, and Barry has Iris, and it's like that's his person. And so I think in a Flash film that didn't carry the weight of needing to reboot the universe, it would have been cool to like also have kind of that like side storyline where it's like, and we're seeing them become more romantically involved.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed that part. I think that's where he starts to get upset and has to go for a run, and that's when he breaks.
It's the date with her, and then him talking with his dad on the phone when because they're talking about how he's gonna have that.
That video.
He's gonna have the thing, in the video, and he's like, "Dad, I looked at it. We got it cleared up, and you never look at the camera, so it doesn't count." And that's when he starts running. Yeah.
And
he stops at his house, and we see the flashbacks and everything. And then that triggers him to start running. And he's like, whoa, what have I done?
I actually thought that was really cool when the dome, the Speed Force dome goes around him. Yeah. And as he kind of just starts kind of like almost speed skating in slow motion. And then you see like the house of cards that is time.
Yeah.
Like all
I thought that was very cool. And that was I love that it's almost like it's like he's in the center point of a kaleidoscope, and the kaleidoscope is
Yes.
just like
Yep.
all of these moments in time, and like going through any variation, it's like you can see how each little moment could come together and be its own timeline, and all these different moments just playing out on repeat in different universes and stuff like that. And so I thought that was a really cool way, because I know like in the TV show when he's running, it's just kind of, it almost looks like he's in hyperspace, and there's these little glimpses of like different worlds and different moments and stuff like that. And that's cool. So I love that they came up with their own unique way of like, what is our version of him being in the middle of time and space?
Right. And I agree. Yeah. And Jay puts up a good reminder here. He relives his mom dying, and we get that whole thing with the, I love you more. I love you first.
Yeah.
Right. Which is also a super sweet moment. Like, you actually, like, it's kind of funny because you get to know his mom very quickly, and you feel so like you feel for him because of that. Like, she was awesome. And again, he goes back, he finds out he can go back in time, then goes back to the present and talks to Bruce like, yo, dude, we could do so many cool things, so many activities.
Yeah.
And Bruce
and to me,
just shut it down.
To me, that what Bruce says to him, like, as awesome as seeing him as Batman was at the beginning, this scene where he is talking to Barry, to me, this feels like Ben Affleck's love letter to Batman. He's like, I could imagine him being like, if I wanted somebody to see my, like, one scene as Batman where I'm just like, this is what I brought to the character, I could imagine it being this, because the way that he was saying, like, you know, our scars, you know, make us who we are, and we might not be the same people if we could go back and change that. Like, that feels like it's not just speaking to Barry and to everything that he's thinking about and everything he's feeling, but it's also kind of reflecting on everything that we've seen Batman go through since, you know, Batman versus Superman. And as frustrating as some of that portrayal might be because of the story that he was asked to tell playing that character, it applies. Like, he went from being this very angry person who, like, Robin had died and he almost killed Superman, and then Superman died anyway, and all this other stuff. And now he, like, we see him as a character in a much more stable place. So he's talking about his own experience with his parents dying. He's talking about everything we've seen him go through in the DCEU. And he's talking about how he feels like he's at a place of acceptance now. And I feel like with this movie, Ben kind of got to a place of acceptance of, like, I'm not doing it anymore, but I love that I got to go out on this note because I finally got to the version of Batman I wanted to play.
Right. Which, again, that's what makes it so sad we're not getting more.
Yeah, exactly.
So he does all that stuff with Batman. And again, and I think you're absolutely correct, where, again, I think it's all, like you said, Bruce went through all this stuff and all these scars that have defined who he is. And he's had to, you know, he's okay with who he's become, which is also, you know, his parents have died. He's come to accept that. Right. And so he's, I love all of that. Where he's talking to Bruce like, I can go back in time. They're like, no, you're going to mess things up. No, it'll be fine. And a typical Flash and just, you know, young hero, young brash hero actions. He does it again.
Yeah.
He goes back. I don't know about you. I know if I had those powers, I would probably go get some, like, vintage toys first. I probably would have went to, like, Toys R Us and KB Toys and got myself a Superpowers Cyborg figure on card, just to be sure.
Here's
Walk Village in the box.
Here's what I would have done. I would have, since you can do it as many times as you want, I would have gone back and I would have found a way to keep tabs on a certain store. And I wouldn't have gone the day that a toy came out and just bought one. I would have waited until that toy sat there, or, like, you know, however many sell, and then there's a couple left on the hanger, and they're sitting there, and they go on clearance, and now there's one left, and you know that eventually that stock is going to get, like, they're going to do something with it, and then I would have bought it. So that way I know no one important was going to buy this and be inspired to go create something or do something that then changes the world. This was probably going to end up in a dump somewhere. So now I'm going to take it and be so careful.
I would have just grabbed a case of superpowers, a case of Star Wars.
Oh man.
It's the equivalent of Biff doing gambling, but I'm just instead like getting, gold bars,
Yeah.
toys. I like Geek Dad.
All the Ecto Glows,
Jay. All the Ecto Glows. Well, guess what? I have all of them because I'm Ecto Glow Elite.
No, not just you have one of each. Like you would have got all of them. So that way you're just like, that's your villain origin story, is that you become the only one that has Ecto Glows.
Dark Doller has a just a apartment filled with Ecto Glows.
You turn off the lights at night to go to bed, but the house is still glowing.
It actually just hums because there's just that many Ecto Glows, right? Like that's what I would do, 100%, right? And get a bunch of Cast Eternias. Oh man, I would do all of it. But it's like, it is like, I understand where he's coming from because, like I said, like I was saying earlier, he's young, he's brash, so he's just gonna like, I can do this and make sure things are done right. Yeah. And he goes back in just kind of like, what is it? He's like, it's the day, like his origin, more or less.
Well, I think the first thing he does is he goes and he puts, because we see in the initial flashback, it's the thing about like his dad went to the store to get a can of tomatoes that his mom forgot. And then because his dad wasn't at home, whoever killed her felt super comfortable with just sneaking in and doing it. And Barry knew it wasn't his dad because he heard his mom scream. And then he looked out the window and saw that his dad had just pulled up getting back from the store. And that's when you see the whole, like, Barry, call 911 and all this kind of stuff. And so he goes back and he's like, if she never forgets the tomatoes, dad never has to go to the store. And whoever thought they were going to sneak in and kill her is going to look in and see everyone's home and be like, okay, I'm not messing with this, and she'll never die. And it happens. Mm-hmm. He puts the tomatoes there, and then he runs back to what he thinks is the present, but he gets knocked out. And I think that's when we first see the Dark Flash, because he knocks him out of the Speed Force, and he ends up in 2013. And so he's there, and he walks in, and he sees both of his parents alive. And it's so touching. Like it's like seeing him react to like, oh my God, I did it. It's just like, it felt like such a, not a punch in the heart, because it wasn't a bad thing, but just like, it's like, oh God, like I can't even imagine what that would feel like.
Right. And I do love it. This is one of these time jump and multiverse kind of jump things that I love. 2 movies seem to have done it in the same month, but when the moms see them and they go, "Oh, you changed your hair," and it's always like that, like, oh God, like what's that mom gonna go through when she sees their actual son again? And they're just like, I always like, for some reason, that's always something that like sits in my chest of like, oh no, the poor mom, like she doesn't know, like, oh, this is gonna be terrible. Right? Because I couldn't imagine putting my own mother through that stress, let alone like,
oh man. And then when they're like sitting and eating, and he looks out the window and sees his younger self showing up from school on the weekend to like do his laundry and all that kind of stuff, and he
tripping over the bush,
and then he like freaks out and goes and tackles him.
Yeah.
And he's trying to like hide who he is by putting dirty laundry on his face, and that doesn't last.
Yeah. It doesn't last. It's so good. Yeah. I think that it's not, I feel it's one of those things where you either nail it when you're acting with yourself.
Yeah.
Or it's weird, but I feel like this movie really did a good job of that, of making them feel like the same person, but 2 different two different
ages. Yeah.
And I love that stories, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because this one grew up with his mom the whole time. And I love, and obviously like his dad not in jail. And I love that they play that off of each other, and they have that moment where they're both in the bedroom and younger Barry is talking, and Prime Barry is just like, oh, I see why people are so annoyed by me sometimes.
Yeah. I totally get that. Kayla,
Yeah.
I love his outfit from the old folks. I hope they
Yeah.
do Hot Toys of that.
Oh my
Like they,
gosh.
if Hot Toys does Barry Allen in the old folks outfits.
So Justin has an interesting comment. He said, the only issue I have with this is Andy Muschietti confirmed that Nora's killer is Reverse Flash. Why would he care who was home unless maybe he wanted to frame Henry for the murder? I think it's absolutely that, because if you know Reverse Flash from the comics, he is the pettiest person in the world. And
Yes.
it would not surprise me if he was just like, if he killed, like what I like to imagine is that whereas we see all these different versions of Barry, Reverse Flash, there's like one Reverse Flash and he came from the DCU that's about to happen. So whatever version of Barry or Wally or whoever is going to be in there, the Reverse Flash that killed even this Barry's mom is from that universe. And so he probably killed Barry's mom in that universe. But then he's like, you know what? F this guy. And then he just ran around and killed Barry's mom in every universe just to set up the same, like, haha, what are you going to do about it? Your dad's in jail, your mom's dead. Your dad's in jail, your mom's dead. I hate all the Barrys. Like, he's just so petty. And so even though we never saw him in the DCEU and it never really mattered because this universe is kind of coming to a close. And when we do finally get like a Flash versus Reverse Flash, it's going to be in another universe. I love the idea that, like, even in universes where he doesn't matter, he's still like, I don't care if I never even meet this guy. Screw him. And then kills his mom.
Right. Yeah, I honestly, like, it was, when did it click for you that it was going to be young Barry was Dark Flash, their Reverse Flash?
I think it was when, I kind of had a feeling because when they're doing the big battle at the end and then he gets stabbed in the arm with a piece of Kryptonian armor.
Yep.
And then it kind of like does a close up on it. And I was like, wait a second. And I was like, maybe he'll just use it as a weapon. But then when they run it again and he gets another piece, I was like, oh. And then the more that you kind of see Prime Barry come to terms with, like, this is not going to work, is it? Like, it doesn't matter how we adjust, how we correct for the way it failed last time. This world was meant to end. And then you see younger Barry just like, no, we can't let it happen. We can't, let mom die. I was just like, yeah, he becomes the bad one, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. There's the moment I saw the arm stab, whatever it is, the wound.
Yeah.
The moment I saw that, I was like, oh, I saw the toys. I know where this is.
Yeah. And I think it's
that's okay.
Well, I love too, because, like, when things first started kind of leaking and getting revealed from this movie and people saw the toys for Dark Flash, it was like, wow, they can't even get Eobard right. They can't even get Reverse Flash right. They can't even do this right, and it's just like, hey, let them cook. If we get to the end of this movie and it really is like Eobard Thawne showed up and he's just like, I'm going to make a cool suit and it looks like that, then we can talk about how we might have enjoyed it a little better if it was different. But clearly that's not what they were doing. And I think what they were doing really worked. And so, like,
for this, for like the one-off movie that it had to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think this worked awesome. I actually really liked it. And again, we go into, this is the other thing too. So after he goes, hey, we need to, like, take me to your place. We see his douchebag friends. They're just all stoners and losers and all hanging out.
Yeah. And
there.
it's all like, I'm Barry and this is my cousin Barry. And then the other guy's like, oh, I'm Gary. And it's just like, Barry, Gary, Gary, Barry, 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 Gary.
Yeah, that was a fun moment, but it's okay, we have to go get you some powers. Which I thought was really fun. It's like, we're going to do it anyways, right? Because we just want to get you some powers. I like how it affected older Barry by, like, the powers went out of him through that lightning bolt and into young Barry.
Yeah.
Like, that was a good setup.
I was waiting for that because he kept saying, like, okay, so this is here. Chemicals are here. You got to sit here. And young Barry's like, okay. And he's like, and then the lightning will hit you. And he's like, lightning? You didn't say I was gonna. And they start doing this like, no, you go here. And I was like, no, it's gonna strike exactly at the wrong time, and it did.
Yeah, and it did. It totally did. I liked how they did that and how young Barry was just like, "Oh my god, this is what I can do."
Yeah,
Like,
and I
because
love
he has that
when
that different perspective.
and when they get to the point where they're like, we got to get out of here, and they can't just sneak out. And then Barry starts trying to like run through the wall, and then he's like,
No,
"Why
it's
isn't it
that
working?"
pose.
And then he's doing the pose, and then he's just trying to run, and he's going in circles.
like, like that moment was so funny. And
Yeah,
he's like, "Well, it's really hard to do the vibrating thing." Whoop, just does it. Like it's
yeah.
such
He's
a
like, "No, I had to train for a long time."
yeah. So I love how it's because the difference having parents makes. I guess is that what it's
Yeah,
supposed to be?
I think it's part of that. It's just it's all the life experience and like how confident he is, with being able to like, oh, I got this. Don't worry about it.
Mhm.
He also the other thing too is we see the flashback and the reveal that during the battle with Zod and Metropolis and Man of Steel, Barry was
Yes.
there and he just had like a very makeshift, like I've got some pads on and a mask and I just want to try to save people. And he tries to save that kid and he sees the kid and he's running and then the world engine is doing the like turning gravity on and off thing and he barely manages to grab the kid and he's not able to save the kid's dad. And so even just little traumas like that where you can imagine like after that happened, Barry was like, okay, I got to try to get better at everything. He's been through so much that it's going to affect how capable he is and how quickly he's able to become that capable. Whereas this one is just like, nothing's bothering me. The sky's the limit,
Yeah, exactly. And I love how we kind of go from that to all of a sudden, oh, Zod is coming.
Yeah.
Like that's not stopping. So
Yeah.
that happens anyways, and that's when we kind of well, no, I think we go. Does he go to Batman first?
I think no. So first he goes to first I think he gets tired and then he eats and then he starts running and he's like, no, you've got to and he's like, it tastes horrible, right? And then he's like, you have to wear a suit because your clothes are going to burn off, but he doesn't hear him.
Right.
And that's when he takes off and he looks like he's having so much fun at first. And it looked like for all of that we've been talking about, like, some of the VFX didn't look great. That scene when he's just like, and he like the first time he takes off looks so good. And then like his clothes start to burn off and then he starts running into things and then there's explosions and fireworks and he comes back and Barry's just like, what did you do? He's like, nothing. But he's like totally naked.
There's all this fire and smoke and fireworks happening in the back outside of the window. But that was that scene was great. And it's just, and then that's kind of when they kind of take off to because that's when they go to Barry's apartment. Yeah. And they were like, oh, we got to go to the cousin's dinner.
Yeah.
We have a cousin's dinner we got to go to.
But it was, I think leading up to that, it was like they were talking about what day it was, and then they see the broadcast, and he's like, "My name is General Zod. You've been harboring one of my citizens." Blah blah blah. And then Barry's like, "Oh, okay. So there's no Superman, there's no Aquaman, there's no Wonder Woman, And he's like, "Well, who do we have?" And then he's like, oh, "I wish there was a Batman." He's like, "Oh, we got Batman." And so he's like, okay, let's go find Batman,
But that's, I love that. I love how they just go through the old manor that we recognize that kitchen.
Yeah.
They
recreated it perfectly.
So good. I was a little bummed out that Keaton started with the long hair and the flip-flops a little bit. And then I was like, then I got into it. When they all started fighting, because he's like, "What? Bruce Wayne is Batman? I thought we were going to a cousin's dinner." It's just like
he's like, I literally thought it was a cousin's dinner.
Right? Like it's so good. That whole fight scene in the kitchen was so well done.
And I love that he like literally tries to take them out, and then it just gets to a point where he stops. He's like, "Are you guys hungry?" And he makes spaghetti.
He makes spaghetti, right? And they find the Bat Cave after that, because like during the spaghetti, that's when he explains with the dry spaghetti, like, hey, it doesn't change. You just created a new line.
Yeah.
So when you do that over and over, boom, you get spaghetti, which is, again, great reference. And from there, they go outside because they're just like, well, if he's not going to help us, we're just going to go check out his shit. So they find that entrance, that old well to the Bat Cave. Again,
I love how weird it looks when young Barry phases into it, because instead of just like, it's like he's like, and like his head just snaps back and forth right at the end, and then you hear him hit the ground. He's like, ow.
Yeah. Like, but that whole that, I kind of wish they did the Dutch tilt pan that Burton used to do, where it looked like Burton was doing drone shots of his Gotham and his Batcave before we had drones, right? He would just do the big miniatures, and they would do the big zoom in and pan ins, right? And do the Dutch tilts. And I kind of wish that they did that again when doing that tour of the Batcave, just to kind of give it that that Burton feel to it.
Yeah.
But that's a nitpick. That's here nor there, because that was an awesome reveal.
Yeah, no, it was very cool, and just seeing everything like covered up, but it's still there. It's still what you remember. Like even when he starts dusting off the computer and everything, like you can tell it's probably been updated to the last time he used it as Batman, but it's still the same kind of vibe and everything. It just, they did it, like production design did a great job on this movie for sure.
Agree. Yeah, they killed it, because I know a lot of that Batcave was practical as well. I know there's always going to be the environment extensions that the VFX team does, but again, that's where the VFX totally kicked ass, because you can't tell the difference from where the real set is and where the set extensions begin. So again, props to whichever studio did that.
Yeah,
because you nailed it. Were you surprised that we didn't see the Batmobile in action?
Not very. I mean, it didn't surprise me, because I kind of had a feeling like the story had a pace that it was trying to keep up. And when they immediately recognized, like, hey, we found something that might have landed in Russia, blah, blah, blah. Or like, I think it's Bruce that figures out like, hey, whatever it is, if this Kal-El exists, I think they're keeping him in Russia. It's like, okay, they're not going to take the Batmobile to Russia. He's probably not hiding in Gotham. So it's like, there's not really a reason to just kind of get in the car and go somewhere that's nearby. So it made sense that, from here, we just immedially jump to, okay, let's all get in the Batplane. The Batwing. Right. Yeah.
Let's get drive-through. That's what I would have said. I would have done a throwback to that line. I don't care. Member berries, I'll take it. When that reveal of the Batwing, when that thing comes down.
Yeah.
Amazing. They nailed it with that. I love how they're scoping to find out where the Superman might be in Russia.
Yeah.
And that base, when they go down there, again, so good. I loved everything that led up to it.
I was laughing so hard when they find it, and I can't remember what they call it now, but it was some kind of like, the giant metal Russian scrotum or something like that.
Yes, that's what it
was. he said it, and then I laughed, but it goes back to like serious mode, because they're kind of like creeping up on it. You don't know if someone they are looking for is going to be in it or not. But because all of the shots were about getting closer to it and focusing on it, even when it was getting more serious and serious, I was just like, giant metal scrotum.
Yeah, it was. But even everything leading up to that, where they get down there, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, let's turn the corner, and there's all these scientists, and they're like, we'll just hit that alarm. So good. I loved all that kind of sneaking around, and just, it was, I don't know, there's something very just cool. Like, I guess we kind of skipped over older Barry getting his powers back, which again, awesome. And that was the only thing really
Well, he doesn't
straight from the comics.
He doesn't have them yet. He doesn't have them when they go to Russia.
They don't?
No, because they go to Russia.
Oh, because he does it because Girl takes him up to the sky. Yeah. Right. I thought I skipped that. Okay. But I do love all that. There's something about seeing Batman and like knowing he's with the Flash. Just kind of like, it's Keaton's Batman, so they're just kind of like having adventures. I don't know.
And I love too, like I think it might not be until later, but when he is, it's after they get Supergirl, but the moment when he does the "let's get nuts" line, but we don't see in any of the trailers is he starts it off and he's got like, here's two Flashes and Supergirl and Batman, and Batman's like, what did you call us? What are we in the other universe? Like Justice League. And so I'm waiting for Batman to like say Justice League, because I'm like, I never would have thought I heard Keaton say that. You know, he's already talking about Superman and Supergirl and the Flash, and like then to hear him say Justice League, but he's like, yeah, that. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. I was like, all right, I'll take it. This is great.
Yeah, I'll take it too. Like it, and again, it's seeing Batman, the Keaton Batman next to anyone wearing a Superman symbol.
Yeah,
is just like, it's so cool to me. But I love how they, like, again, like we saw a lot of that stuff, that Russia stuff and the Batman stuff. Majority of it was in the trailers.
Yeah,
like there was
for sure.
Because I understand,
like it was a little more extended, but for like, you know, it is Batman. They rescue Supergirl. They get out of there. They get surrounded by the military. And then Batman realizes that Supergirl has kind of like gained enough energy. She comes and kicks all their butts. And then they get out of there.
And they get the hell out of there, which is awesome. They go back to Wayne Manor. They all go and hang out, do their thing. And that's when Barry's like, well, let's just try. Get my powers back. And this is where it was like, where I was like, okay, they ripped this right from the comic.
Just the electric literally chair, the way the chemicals are all around it. Yeah.
Everything. Where it's just like
him throwing the big switch and it just burning him. Yeah.
And then he does that, try one more time. Right? Yeah. And then that's when Supergirl grabs him. Yeah. Like there's so many good Supergirl moments in this movie. And she's so good.
She's great. Yeah. Yeah. I sincerely hope, like, it sucks because part of me, like, looking at how the movie performed, and I think there's a lot of reasons for it. I think a lot of it is for as much hype as it generated, I think, and I don't think it was a bad move at all, but I think James Gunn kind of coming out and doing his announcement video of like, hey, I'm in charge now. We're building a universe from scratch. This is how everything is going to play into it. These are all the projects we're doing. And then, you know, everything that happened with Ezra Miller and, you know, people just kind of being like, the DC universe so far has just been like not something I'm interested in because it feels weird. Like I get why it's not performing well. And part of me is like, for the DCU to have the best chance it can to just launch fresh and regain everybody's trust, it needs to be like from the jump obvious, like this is its own thing. It's not connected to anything else. But part of me is also like, man, she was really good. Can she just play her in Woman of Tomorrow too? Just like give her a different costume, say she's from a different universe. She's from the main universe now, and just go for it. Like I'm fine. Marvel told us to appreciate variance. I'm fine with it.
That I'm 100% with you. When Zod is like approaching that military, again, keeping it out of the city, which I thought was super nice to see. Yeah, you got all these Kryptonians. I love that they brought all those Kryptonians back.
Yeah, his army. All the actors.
Oh, so good. Because much as I beef with Man of Steel, Zod and his crew were easily one of my favorite parts of those movies that I could just watch.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
And, you know, when she's doing, like, you know, she literally comes down to pick a fight.
Yeah.
And all the Kryptonians are there. And to me, just that whole fight scene, like, with all of them and all those moving parts, I thought they did such a good job of it.
Yeah.
But the one thing part of that fight, that big ending fight, when it's the two Flashes, they go heel to heel that we saw in the trailer and zip through and just start punching Kryptonians. I don't know if you noticed this, but I was dying in the theater, and I was trying to like not be that guy in the theater. Was when the young Barry is punching all the Kryptonians in the nuts.
Yes, yes.
I was
oh God,
I
it's
was like,
so good, dude.
oh, okay, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do it.
It was
But I,
so much fun, man.
it made me pop, and I was like, because it's just something you don't see,
Yeah,
right? Again, it's just these characters have been being played so seriously. I feel like for the last decade, like, and I'm not even talking like even Snyderverse, like even we all love The Dark Knight. We all love Batman Begins. Some of us are on the fence of Rises. But even since then, like everything has been so serious and
yeah,
so
100%.
like it gets so heavy sometimes that now we're starting I feel like we're having fun again.
Yeah.
So you get not
It
shots
feels
of
like a
fun.
comic book. Like you can have a comic book where it's very serious. You understand the stakes. You know it could be the end of the world or the city being destroyed or somebody dying or whatever, but it doesn't mean that the superhero is not going to be quippy or someone's not going to get punched in the nuts or anything like that. Like you can still have fun within the confines of the story you're telling and never forget like, but we remember what's at stake.
Right. And I think with the other thing in that fight too, because they start talking I keep wanting to call them canon events. Because
yeah.
I'm still stuck on my old job. They call it an intersection. What do they call it, John?
Oh, I know when he's explaining it, Bruce calls it a. Oh, hold on, wait. Someone in the chat's probably going to figure it out before me.
Okay, and the race is on. But there's like events that happen that you cannot change. That they're always going to happen, right? But anyways, regardless, we find out one of those events in this world is Batman dying.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I think it's a fixed point. I think Darth
Dartharian got it. Yes, thank you. Yes, a fixed point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think because in every time that they try to reset it and every time that they try to go back and fix it, because it starts with Supergirl dying, and then Batman can't eject from his cockpit, so he kamikazes one of the Kryptonian ships. So then they try it again.
When they first did that, I was like, really? That's what we're gonna do? Like I was already getting so mad, but that was their whole point of doing that.
Yeah, like, and then he goes back and he's like, hey, okay, this time I'm going to warn Batman that it's shield protected because he didn't know that the first time. So this time he won't do it. And then I'm going to make sure that I go and I fight alongside Kara so she doesn't die. But then Batman still dies because the big Kryptonian beats him up. And then Kara still dies because Zod just takes out young Barry and then kills her anyway. And it keeps happening over and over again. And, Prime Barry starts to realize this is a fixed point. Younger Barry starts getting stabbed with every piece of shrapnel in the area. And he's like, don't worry, I can do it this time. And they both take off running. And that's when they're kind of in the Chrono Bowl inside the Speed Force. And they're having that argument of like, we can't let mom die. Barry's saying like, this is the way it's supposed to happen. And they're about to it looks like they're about to go at it. And then that's when they spot the Dark Flash coming in hot. Right. And that was, that was intense. Cause it's like, on its own, just these two versions of Barry, like arguing with each other is like, something's about to happen. Like, one of them is going to beat the other one up and then break the timeline even more, or Prime Barry is going to try to fix everything one more time or something. And then he shows up and you're like, oh God, what's going to happen? And it was, the whole confrontation was just really well done.
It was. And even with all the crazy wild VFX all happening around it, because that's all it was just like that whole thing is one person and a ton of VFX. And to me, even with the stylization of it and everything else, I thought they did such a great job. Because
yes, let's talk about that, because there's been a lot said about these cameos, and to me, visually speaking, like I was saying earlier, it's almost this like it kind of reminds me of like a colorized version of the way that the what do you want to call them, like the weird like hologram things when Clark gets to that ship and Man of Steel, and it's kind of Jor-El is showing him Kryptonian history and everything. It reminds me of that style, yeah, but like colored. And that's what the stuff in the Speed Force kind of looked like, at least when it's doing that like different versions all around them kind of thing. And then as they kind of go through specific ones, it still kind of has that like it looks like a combination of like a kaleidoscope, and then I don't know what they're called. I think it starts with a Z or something, but like those things where like it's like you look through the hole and there's like a pencil and you spin it, and it's like in the beginning of Nope, they show how it's like the guy on the horse or whatever.
Right.
I don't know what they're called, but it looks like a combination of that and a kaleidoscope. And that's kind of like the style that we're seeing all of this through. And then sometimes we pop into a specific one. And so like we see, you know, Christopher Reeve Superman up close, and we see Supergirl up close from her movie.
Slater show up,
yeah,
but together. We've never seen them together.
Yeah, ever. And that's so cool. And but it makes sense because like Jimmy shows up in her movie, so it's the same universe, and so it's cool to like I think people like I have to imagine. First of all, Christopher Reeve, when he was alive, I'm not speaking for the man, but this is a guy who he was on Smallville. He was always happy to speak about Superman up until he passed away. I would imagine that if he was still alive, like it'd be hard for me to imagine him not at least considering being a part of this or saying, yes, please, you can, if that's what you want to do, you know.
I'm with you 100%. And I honestly feel in my gut too, he would have been down.
Yeah. And I feel like he, you know, because even while he was alive, they were doing that stuff where I think I remember them making a big deal about it. Like they did some kind of CG animation where they were promoting, you know, medical advancements. And they were like, what if we could help him walk again? And they like did a thing where it made it look like Christopher Reeve got out of his wheelchair and walked, which was obviously not reality. But it like I feel like he was someone who at least would have entertained the idea. He would have allowed them to pitch it to him. And obviously I have to imagine that they got the okay from his family, from his estate, from whoever handles his affairs and stuff like that. I could see it in the comments. People are saying it was a missed opportunity to just use Brandon Routh from Kingdom Come or from, you know, from the CW. And I think that would have been cool. I think it should, you know, that would have been awesome too. I wouldn't have been mad.
Before we go into missed opportunities, because I do want to get into that. Yeah. I want to go through the rest of the cameos. We got George Reeves as well at the very beginning with his.
I thought that was cool.
With that universe's Jay Garrick, which I was like, whoa. Are we going to see like alternate like heroes from the same universe, which we only kind of got the one.
Yeah. But, the thing that's weird about that is everybody thinks it was the guy who played he showed up claiming he was Jay Garrick, but then he turned out to be Professor Zoom because he was pretending to be someone else. Because the Jay Garrick from the CW was played by John Wesley Shipp, who played Barry in the original TV series, played his dad, all that kind of stuff. So, but then like the guy who played Professor Zoom, Jay Garrick, is just like, that looks like me, but I'm almost certain that I didn't do anything for this movie. So if they just like reused footage of me from the show to do it, like I was not aware of it. And so there's like this mystery of like, then who was Jay Garrick in this movie? Like who was that guy?
So we had that. We had a weird still of Adam West running.
Yeah.
Which was weird to me. Because I was like again, we'll get into missed opportunities in a second. Then we got that beautiful shot of Christopher Reeves and Helen Slater. Yeah. Then I instantly knew from the back of the head, I was like, holy shit, that's Nicolas Cage. And here's the other thing. Craig messaged, I was like, I knew, right? He's like, that wasn't spoiled for you? I was like, I didn't even realize it leaked. I've been living in a whole nother world in the last few months. And I've completely missed that leak. And having Nick Cage all of a sudden like show there's the damn spider we always heard Kevin Smith talk about. So
the Thanagarian snare beast, Ryan.
Oh, thank you. Thanagarian snare beast. And it was, again, super cool to see that. And then
wearing the same suit that we've seen that they actually made and
with the knives,
photos of.
The knives, all that stuff. Super cool. And I'm trying to think of who else did we see? I feel like that was kind of it.
Yeah, I think that was it, because then we kind of bounced back and forth, and you're seeing what's happening with the Flashes fighting Dark Flash, and you're seeing the worlds collide and everything, and then you're kind of seeing through everything from everybody else's point of view, like you're behind Christopher Reeve and Helen Slater as they're watching it play out, and then as they finally start fixing things, because they reveal that like Dark Flash looks the way he does because he is the version of young Barry that never stopped trying to fix things. He never gave up. And he's telling them, like, I'm so close. I may need to do it just one or two more times, but I've got it figured out. I can save Mom. And he's going to, he reveals that he's the one who knocked Barry Prime out of the Speed Force in 2013. So all of this could play out and he could set himself on the path to being able to save their mom. And so he's like, but now I have to kill you in order to see it through, so you can't stop me. And then young Barry jumps in front of Dark Flash. So he effectively kills himself. And that triggers both of them disappearing. And that gives the main Barry the chance to start running and to fix everything. But he I can't remember if he stops before it's completely fixed or he fixes it and then remembers something. But you see him, he takes off, he's running, he manages to stop the worlds from colliding. You see this really great shot of Nicolas Cage kind of looking through the tear in the universe, and then it zooming out from him in the full suit, and then like the universe reseals itself and everything. And it's just
crisis averted. That's what
literally crisis averted. And it's and Barry he's fixing everything, and you see everything like the kaleidoscope kind of coming back together. And then at some point, I don't remember exactly how it plays out, but he realizes that he has to go back to the grocery store and take the can of tomatoes out of his mom's cart because it's the only way that he can fix things back to normal.
Yes.
And that was the scene. There were a couple scenes that kind of like hit me in the gut, hit me in the heart or whatever up until this point. And I was like, oh man, I'm like, you feel it. But this was the scene that as it was happening, I was actively just like tears were coming down my face because, he's trying to hide himself, but then he's making it like he's talking to his own mom, and his mom is still used to like young Barry. She's not going to necessarily see older Barry and recognize him as her son, but she sees something about him, and they have this conversation about how much he loves his mom and how much he wishes she could tell her. And she's like, you have to say that to her. And it's this heart-wrenching scene. And while he's hugging her, he reaches in the cart and he pulls the tomatoes out. And then as he's like going back around the corner, you hear him say, bye, Mom. And I just like, it broke me, dude. Like it just crushed me. But then I love that. Or you go ahead.
No, and then and of course that means his dad has to go back.
Yeah.
To the grocery store. But yeah, go ahead.
But then he has that moment of like he's putting the tomatoes back, and he's like, "Wait a second!" And then it cuts back to he's reset the world. You think everything's fine, and he's rushing to the courthouse. And he gets to the courthouse late, of course, because the Flash is always late. And he sits down, and then they're just like, thanks to Wayne Enterprises, they helped us fix up this footage. We now have unequivocal evidence that Mr. Allen is innocent. And you see through the footage that the last thing Barry did was switch the tomatoes so that they were on the top shelf because the because the reason the footage wasn't going to prove anything originally was because the tomatoes are on the bottom shelf and he never looks up at the camera, so you can never tell it's him. So Barry switched it. So reaching for the top shelf, you naturally see his face. And so his dad is free. So Barry changed one little thing. But then as he's leaving the courthouse, first he makes a dinner date with Iris, which is great. I love that interaction. Yep. And then he gets a call from Bruce and he's talking to him about stuff. And then Bruce is like, well, hang on, I'm pulling up now. And you see like the paparazzi and people all around are like, oh my God, what's Bruce Wayne doing here? And then when the crowd finally parts, I did not see this coming at all.
Same here.
Did not think this was going to happen. The door opens and it's George Clooney as Bruce Wayne. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me right now.
Okay. How did your theater react to that?
It was there was some clapping. There was some like, yo, are you serious? Like just people like freaking out.
People popped. Yeah. Because we did not expect it. I love that people enjoyed, like, I'm sure there are people that absolutely complained about that ending. I do not care. For a lot of us, we really kind of enjoyed it. And for me, I've always felt like a Batman and Robin apologist. Just knowing what it is and what, Schumacher was going for with those movies. But the fact that George Clooney took the brunt of that for years, carrying
he was publicly just like, we all whiffed it. I feel bad about it. I know I didn't do my best.
Yeah, I killed Batman. Yeah. He claimed that it was his fault, all this stuff. Yeah. And I was like, it's not you, man. It's the studio. It ain't you. Yeah. It ain't Schumacher. It's the studio.
Because on paper, you'd think like George Clooney, he'd probably make a great Batman.
He did. Well, here's what I feel. I feel he made a great Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, 100%. He feels like a Bruce Wayne kind of dude where he just like, he feels very like, hello ladies, I'm George Clooney. I'm a great actor. And like, he just feels like he's got that air about him. So him playing Bruce Wayne, it feels like a no-brainer.
Yes. Agreed. And just him coming out, I was like, this is so nice to see.
Yeah.
Right. Like that he's not getting completely ignored. And this is where I wanted to like, and the movie ends, we get a drunk Aquaman after the credits, and away we go. But anyway, sorry to rush that because I don't think there's really much to talk about in terms of the Aquaman cameo.
Yeah, that was just like, oh, there's an Arthur in this universe, and he's a drunk weirdo, just like in all the universes, I guess.
Yeah, had me kind of go, I can't wait.
In this universe, he's also Jason Momoa playing Jason Momoa.
Yes. But I want to talk about these missed opportunities. There's one that, like, when they're showing this, like, Crisis of Infinite Earths happening, I know CW has brought up a lot, and I do fully agree they should have had Grant Gust and Arrow showing up there together, looking at this. They should have been in this movie. I 100% feel like they got done dirty.
Especially because Miller showed up in Crisis on Infinite Earths. And there was this moment where he's talking to him and I think Gustonsberry says something like, you're also the Flash. And then Ezra's like, the Flash. I like that name. I got to tell Victor about that. So it's like, in theory, he got the name the Flash from another version of the Flash. So it's like, it would have been nice to kind of bring that full circle.
And you could, and to see that Grant Gust Flash, see Ezra's Flash, just something to
me, the perfect, like I remember early on after they cast Ezra Miller as the Flash back in like 2014 or whatever, they were talking about how like, honestly, like there's room in the Speed Force for all of us, me, Grant, John Wesley Shipp, everybody who's ever had a lightning bolt on their chest. There's no reason we can't coexist. The multiverse is a thing. And like, that was one of the things that made them so excited to play the character. He's like, I hope we can meet in the Speed Force one day. Right. And, or they were saying that. And so I thought it would have been cool to have this moment of like, you're seeing all these different universes, different Supermans, different, Batman, whatever. And then you have a moment where Barry looks out and sees like Grant Gustin's Flash and John Wesley Shipp's Flash. And they all just kind of nod at each other and just like start running. And it's just like, like you just know, like, hey, we're Flashes, we're in the Speed Force, we can fix this, and they start running, and you don't even have to follow them. It's not like they're part of the plot
No,
now.
you
It's
just see
just
them
like they're
go do
adding
their
that
thing.
energy to the Speed Force so Barry can keep doing what he's doing.
There's one more Flash I would add to that. This is the other one I also felt was a missed opportunity. The Bruce Timm-verse should have been acknowledged.
That would have been cool for sure. Yeah.
To see that Justice League or even that Flash, the Michael Rosenbaum Flash, also see the same thing. Like, doesn't necessarily have to speak, but just seeing.
Well, I was gonna say, just for the sake of getting Rosenbaum to do like one little thing, like you have the Flash running, and then he stops and then he looks up at like the tear in the universe, and he sees like live action Barry Allen, and then you just get Rosenbaum in there to go, huh? Okay, and like that's it.
That's it, right? Like to me, that would have been like so much fun. And or if they even wanted to go like because if they're gonna show George Reeves, if you're also gonna do like any animated stuff, you had to be the Bruce Timm-verse, which I feel like such a punch in the gut we didn't get.
Yeah.
But also throw in Super Friends, Challenge of the Super Friends version of them too.
Just where they could literally, it would have been cool, and I. Part of me understands why they cut it off where they did in terms of who they showed, because it was like, which ones are going to have the most impact and which ones are going to sell the point of what's happening right now. Because I think they could have easily been like, well, what is the list of all the possibilities we could do? And that scene would have gone on for like half an hour, just showing like, and here's this universe, and here's this, and here's Smallville, and here's Arrow, and here's this, and here's animated, and here's, you know.
If we're gonna keep going in like doing like these weird deep cuts of the movies we never got, let's
get Jude Law and Colin Farrell in here to be Batman and Superman.
Boom, dude, I am with you on that. There was that Wonder Woman pilot that that failed. Throw that in there, and I would also have thrown in the Flash.
Justin says. I was going to say, Justin says the unaired 1997 Justice League pilot. That would have been fun.
There was another. Was that the same pilot? There was like a Adam West, Burt Ward, guy like Green Lantern, Fire and Ice, and the Flash.
Oh, I know it.
And
I think you're mixing up a couple things, because there was a thing that was like the first live action Justice League was like a weird.
Yes.
Thing back in the day, but then they also had the 90s one that they tried to do, and that was like Green Lantern, Flash, Fire, Ice, Martian Manhunter.
But I am certain that the Flash and Green Lantern were also in this.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Adam West one.
Yeah.
Which I could be going like crazy. But it just wouldn't like, to me, I just kept thinking like, man, DC has done so much and has like
they really have
like one of the most like. To me, when it comes to like media outside of comics, I think they have way more than Marvel ever has. Yeah. And Marvel has still had a lot, right? But for some reason, DC just right from the get-go, like with those 1930s serials of Batman, which again, could have took a nod to that too. You know, and,
especially if you like, I mean, you could have had a stunt double get in there and just wear the suit and done some slight tweaking to make it look more like the guy who played that version. But Legends of the Superheroes, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Justin. That's what I'm thinking of as well. But it's I don't know. I just feel like DC has this rich history of multimedia, which is bonkers. If they, you know, I'm always thinking about all this, like when they do these like multiverse stuff, I'm always like, I would love just some of these deep cuts. I think that's why I love like what Spider-Verse does. Yeah, they do go with a lot of these crazy, weird deep cuts, or just things like with the Lego universe, which was like super fun that they did.
That was awesome.
And I was always thinking, man, they should, if you're gonna do something like Nick Cage's Superman, I would also have thrown in Superman 64 video game.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Like one of the most hated video games. And I would have done something really unexpected and done like a version of Henry Cavill where he's electric.
Oh, dude.
Right? The electric.
All right. That would have been sick. Just to, because it would have been something new, but something that is recognized, but it also would have been one more chance for Henry to suit up and do something, you know?
Exactly. Flesh of Superman, absolutely. Flesh of Superman is my jam.
But
100%.
I do love that overall you could really feel, especially by the end of the movie, you could really feel that not only was this kind of, okay, this is how we close off the DCEU, it also was a love letter to everything DC has done so far and was kind of saying, you know, thank you for your service, everything about DC. And like, you know, Gunn and the DCU are going to take it from here. Like, this is a salute to everything that's come so far.
Here was the other thing I really wanted to see is Cavill, Gal Gadot, all of them, that Justice League, that Snyderverse Justice League, but as the Crime Syndicate costume.
Oh, that would have been good. That would have been really good. I'm also surprised. Like, I know they had it in they had a little bit of it used as like stock footage when they did Crisis on Infinite Earths on the CW, but it would have been funny. And part of me feels like if you got him at the right time, he would have been like, yeah, I'll do that. If they'd have had Ryan Reynolds come back as Green Lantern.
Yeah, that's
just like a random scene where he's like, what's going on?
Right? Like, that would have been, to me, like, again, like, I feel that there was, like, this is a multiverse stuff. They should have done more, instead of just doing nods to, like, their movies. It would have been on TV shows. It would have been nice to see some, like I said, like the Crime Syndicate, the Electric Blue Superman, something that nods to the comics, right? Like, but again, this is me just being nitpicky on a very fun movie. But as a comic nerd, I just can't help it sometimes.
Like,
because
as comic nerds, we would have sat there. It's kind of like when people do the for fun edits of Endgame, where it's the portal scene and all the Avengers come back, but then they edit it and like, here's a portal and Vin Diesel and all the characters from Fast and the Furious come out, and here's a portal and the Ghostbusters come out, and here's a portal and the Power Rangers come out. Like, you and me will sit here for an hour and watch this whole movie, and then when it gets to this scene, it's just a 45-minute cut of every different conceivable thing that, like, it stalls the movie completely, but we're just getting all of this, like, that's from that thing, and that's from the comics, and that's from the TV show, and we would never get bored of it.
It's true.
That would be fun.
That is totally awesome. Is there and it seems one last thing I want to bring up. Is this a movie you would just, with all things, all the other stuff aside that was happening outside of this movie with Ezra, do you feel like Ezra is part of the reason why this movie is considered a bomb for the opening weekend? Do you think that's considered? Do you think that's a huge part of it? Because
I think it's a lot of things.
But hang tight as well before you get into your answer. And the other thing too with that, because of that, there wasn't, and because there's the writer's strike, so there's no like late night talk shows, so there's none of that media scrums.
Yeah,
where they can go on to night show, like late night shows and promote
show clips
and hype. Do you think that's been a big effect overall of why this movie's not doing as good as honestly, I thought this movie was going to do gangbusters?
Yeah, I think it's all of it. I think it's, what's unfortunate is that we kind of live in an era now, and I think it's been happening for a while, where I think maybe 20 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, we were still kind of living in a time when if people were bored on a Saturday or any day after work or something, and they had a couple bucks in their pocket, they were like, yeah, let's go to the movies. Let's see what's playing. And it didn't matter if it was a superhero movie or a mid-budget movie or an indie movie. If it looked cool, it was like, yeah, why not? If I walk out and I feel like it wasn't my jam, I spent a couple bucks and wasted a couple hours. It's fine. I think we have over time kind of gotten more stingy with our money. And I think we've also gotten used to the idea of like, if I wait a couple months, I can save money and I can be safe at home, and I don't have to be disappointed because I can turn it off or I can do something else while I'm watching it if I just wait for something to hit streaming. And I think that has led us to kind of be like, I'm only going to spend money if it feels like something that has to be seen on a big screen. It has to be a spectacle that it's like, yeah, I can watch this at home, but it's not going to hit as hard if I don't see it on the big screen. or it's got to be something that like I already trust this property, so I have an investment in it before I even see the movie. So, you know, stuff that's adapted from a famous book or comic books or something where it's like, I already love this, so I'm going to see the movie version of it, of course. And,
Right.
and so there's already just a general level of like, I'm not as willing to just go to the movies for something that I don't already feel like this is probably going to be good. I have faith in this. And I think that unfortunately the track record of DC, regardless of anything else, has kind of led to even more of that. Like, I'm not as confident that if I just go see a DC movie, it's going to be good. So there's that.
Correct. Yep.
I think that on top of that, it's only gotten more confusing because it's like, not only is it, oh, I wasn't feeling Snyder's thing. Then it was like, well, then maybe you'll like this, but that's not quite working. So maybe you'll like this, but then it's kind of a soft reboot and it's not, but is there going to be more? Like, it's just gotten more confusing. So there's that, but then it's also like, you already have people who are like, this is kind of enough to make me just wait it out and see what people think or wait till it hits streaming. But then you have the chaos that's being caused by Miller. And then that's enough for people to go like, okay, yeah, I'm going to wait this one out. And then you don't have any of the other actors or the director or anything that you're catching on late night talk shows who are like, hey, let me show you this clip. Let me tell you how great it is. Let me tell you why we're excited. Let me hint at some things you're going to want to see, to maybe turn around a few of those people and be like, okay, he made it sound really good. Maybe I'll go see it opening weekend or after it's been out for a little bit or something. There was like, it was just kind of one thing on top of another. And I think similar things have happened to similar movies where you like, if there's enough chaos and enough commotion and enough, you know, now you're also dealing with stuff like they did so many early screenings that you have whole scenes and shots from the movie being leaked onto Twitter and social media, and it's being taken out of context. And people are just kind of framing it as like, look at how bad this is. Look at how terrible this is. Look at how dumb it is that this is Batman and he died because he just, instead of ejecting, he just crashed his plane into the thing. Why wouldn't they give him an ejector seat? And it's people that have like bad intentions because clearly, like, A, his ejector seat was broken. B, this happens because he didn't know that the ship had shields. And then like 2 seconds later, Barry reverses time and prevents that from happening. And then obviously like he dies another way. So it's like, there's no nuance, there's no context. And then every movie, people want to turn it into their hill to die on. It's like, this movie is bad and I need you to believe me. And if you don't, you're dumb. Or it's, this movie is excellent and you need to not be a sheep and believe me on that. And it's like people don't want any part of that because they can feel like movies are being turned into a battleground for public opinion now. And it's like, I just want to go to the movies and like, even as someone who loves comics and loves this stuff and will sit here for 2 hours and talk about it with you and dissect it, I want the freedom to like enjoy it or not enjoy it, but then have a conversation about it and say like, well, I did like this part. It would have been maybe better if they did it like this or whatever, and not have it be like, Ryan, you're dumb because you didn't like it as much as me or whatever. Like, it's just,
we only do that to Craig. We only do that to Craig, right? But that's it. That's the only person we do that to.
Exactly.
I want to hit some of these comments. Shiny Plastic People, thank you for hanging out. You got here, and yes, we are still going tonight. There's lots to talk about. He's part, like Ezra is part of it. It's so much hate over this movie for reasons that have nothing to do with this movie.
100%
definitely part of it. Kayla, I think the Ezra factor, the writer's strike, and not having it come out sooner, like a perfect storm of factors that played into it. Agreed. Also, Shiny Plastic People, the Snyder incels, man, at this ending. Yeah, and let them be.
Stay mad. Stay mad. That's all I have to say about that.
While the rest of us have fun, have a great time, right? Brinkley Studios is here. Thank you for hanging out. It's also an abundance of blockbuster movies. We've had Transformers last week, Fast X the week before, and we got Indiana Jones next week. It used to be,
and then Ninja Turtles is right around the corner.
Spider-Verse was also
Spider-Verse. Yeah.
You're right. Barbie's in next month as well. I know some of you are probably some of you are probably giggling at me saying Barbie, but that's going to be a hit.
100%.
It's good. I can't wait for it. I'll be honest. I'm super stoked for
Yeah.
Barbie.
I love that as soon as the trailers for Barbie and Oppenheimer came out and revealed that I think they're coming out on like the same day or the same weekend or something, people were immediately like, ooh, which one's going to be better? And then the internet's collective response was like, no, everybody's doing a double feature. It's going to be Barbenheimer weekend. And I was like, see, why can't we do more of this? Why can't we just be like, we can be equally, cinematic and depressing and equally poppy and fun and just embrace all of it,
I think, yeah. And I'm with you on that. I'm glad Oppenheimer is coming out as well.
Yeah.
Because we hate to say it, but we need, well, actually, I don't hate to say it. Fuck that. I don't take that back at all. We need more I think we need more artsy films, romantic comedies. We need more variety in what we're seeing in the theater. Everything like Brinkley was saying, so many blockbusters, these big VFX monsters. And I think things just need to chill out just a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's go back, and that'll bring more people back because not everybody wants to see those at the theater.
Yeah.
Right?
I think the thing that has been something that I hope Marvel follows through on is that it seems like since their appearance at San Diego Comic-Con, where they kind of announced like, we're doing this, Kang Dynasty, Secret Invasion, Secret War, all this stuff, they've kind of backed off and said, hey, we're going to slow down. A lot of these are going to get pushed back at least a year or two. Right. And then it seems like everyone's starting to embrace, for the sake of the VFX workers, for the sake of everybody, just kind of saying like, let's slow down and maybe not put something out until it's ready to be out. And I think that's going to, similar with Star Wars. Like we haven't gotten a Star Wars movie in a long time. We've gotten a few shows, but when the next Star Wars movie hits, hopefully it's back to that feeling of like, ooh, a new Star Wars movie instead of like, Jesus, Spider-Man just came out like last week and now I got to go see Ant-Man. I'm excited. I'm a fan. I want more. I always want more, but it's like, let's take a breather. All right.
Let's take a breather. I always kind of felt that MCU after Endgame should have took like a 3-year, 4-year hiatus.
Yeah.
Right.
Like let us decompress from that. Yeah. And then give us a reason like
on.
Yeah.
Well, it gives them it gives them too that new foundation, right? They can start from the bottom again and work their way up to the next event.
It really felt like they kind of went from Endgame right into whatever. I mean, literally, they went from Endgame into like a couple months later, it was Far From Home, and then just a bunch of other stuff. And it like the nice thing about if they had given us that break after Endgame, it really would have felt like when they did say, hey, now this movie is coming out and we're getting back into it, it would have immediately given you that trigger of like, ooh, something must be like they know what they're building up to now. And that's why we've got to get back into it because they're ready to tell this story. Whereas just going from like Far From Home to Black Widow to Shang-Chi to Eternals to this, it's like, I feel like you're just giving us things. Right. Yeah, it's like I feel like you're just giving us things. Like we went into WandaVision and some of those early TV shows looking for the like, okay, what are we building to now? Why are they introducing this? Are we leading to this? But then every time people thought, where's Mephisto? Like it's just every time people thought they'd identified like, ooh, it could be this. It wasn't that. Even to the point of like they show us the multiverse breaking and Loki, but then you go into like, Multiverse of Madness and it's not broken yet. And then you go into No Way Home and like, maybe that's also something that helps break it, but it's not broken yet. And it's like, so does none of this actually matter? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. But we're going to wrap it up here, John. We've been going for almost 2 hours.
There's a lot to talk about, dude.
I am glad you were here because I would have skipped half the movie. I would have forgotten about it because I would have wanted to just jump right into Christopher Reeves.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's the other thing. Yeah, I also, you know what? I also hate people in the theater. But I find that you Americans are worse in the theater than Canadians. I hear all these horror stories from the States of like people talking, the chairs.
I've been really fortunate. Like I went and saw Spider-Verse and Flash with a couple of really good friends who are also comic creators, and so we were all really hyped to watch it. And then we literally like after we left the theater, we were walking back to our cars, and and we like stopped in the parking lot and just talked about it for like a good 30 or 45 minutes. And like I've had really good theater experiences, but I have also had experiences where like you can tell it's just a bunch of teenagers who like wanted to be in the air conditioning. And so they're in there on their phones and they're giggling about memes on TikTok. And now I just sound like a boomer, but it's like that kind of annoying. Like, do you have to do that in here? Like, do you have to do that right now?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. But no, thank you so much for being here. Thank you everyone in the chat for being here and hanging out with us. Sorry I can't get the prize thing working. I'll get Craig to teach me how to do this. One day I will learn how to YouTube like an adult. But this is where I become the boomer, and I'm just like, I don't understand this damn fangled technology. I just press go live and go. That's all I do. So thank you everyone for being here. I'll be back next week. And again, folks, I've been talking to Sony. Things are looking bright for having people on from Spider-Verse and dissecting that movie and breaking it down by department, and so you can all understand the scope of this thing. It might be the closest thing you get to a behind the scenes of that movie. So it's going to be pretty wild. So again, thank you for being here, John. Thank you for being here, chat. And
thank you for having me.
Have a good night, Gotham, and I will see you all next week.